engaged your shareholders on this journey, because that, the investors drive a lot of the company's strategies. So you've obviously engaged them well. But
no, thanks for that question. It's very timely, actually, because in the last month, several of us, so actually 6 of us from Coca-Cola, spent 2 days in New York with a handful of our big investors. The first day was with socially responsible investor groups and sort of sustainability activist investors. And this is a group of religious investors and others that we've engaged with for about 15 years or so around our sustainability efforts. But then day 2 was more the mainstream investors, the mainstream analysts from the big financial firms. We had about 20% of Coca-Cola stock represented in the room for day 2. We took them through all of our sustainability programs, but with the big focus on the World Without Waste program.
And the reaction is obviously good?
Yeah, the reaction is good. They have asked us for a few things in follow-up, but it's interesting. We know of, I think, 4 different big investment houses that are conducting their own global analysis on plastics. And so it's very interesting to see that happening in that space.
Fantastic. If you do have a question, please raise your hand. I have a couple of others. I have 2 more that I will be asking, but do let me know if you want to ask a question. I'm going to ask, actually, it's the one question for Doug, Steve and Ashwin. We've heard so much about the region being different and the one-size-doesn't-fit-all strategy. So I would like to ask each of you to briefly tell us one major opportunity that you see in the region today that people should be focusing on. Who wants to take it?
Yeah, I think whenever we see crisis, at the same time, we also see opportunities. Just now, I saw a number in our industry. There's involvement of 200-something billion, am I right? I think our industry still have a lot of room to grow because it's only 10% of plastic being recycled. And we talk about sustainability, we talk about brand owner committed to using a lot of plastic. And especially nowadays, I saw the growth in Asian countries, including Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand, because a lot of light manufacturing industry move over here, some of them. And actually, I also know quite a few of them in plastic industry, because China is not allowed to recycle anymore. I mean, when I say recycle, it's the imported scrap. These countries like Malaysia, if Malaysia have a policy to recycle and also to import material that will not contaminate the environment or material that being recycled in a proper environmental company or factory. I think this is a very, very good sources that on one hand, we doing this value-added chain, we can recycle them value-added, and also after recycle, then go to manufacturing. And one of the examples I give, I don't know anybody from Inco. Inco is the example that moved over here because they are in the EPS industry, recycling of and make the recycled material into product like photo frame. So we have somebody from Inco. Yeah. So this is one of the very, very good example. And I don't only like factory move from China over here, and also demand of recycled materials growing. Yeah, I would like to share what I see, and I see there's a lot of potential here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. So one opportunity I see is for the industry to work proactively to focus on collection of packaging. And I'm specifically focused on packaging because that's what's moving very quickly through the market. So there's a real opportunity for the industry to come together.
Thank you.
If I could maybe say 3 things. One is that we need good case studies in a municipality and smaller cities and towns to show the rest of the world that this can be done in an integrated way across many material streams. The second, and maybe there are some people in the audience who will be speaking around this, is the use of mixed dirty plastic in real products that can make a value, and whether that is waste to fuel or building materials. An announcement came out yesterday in Costa Rica with one of our Plasticity alumni, the biggest cement maker in Costa Rica, and Panama is now using mixed dirty plastic and as a small percent of aggregate in all cement blocks. And that is a huge opportunity to get rid of this, the 90% that is not getting handled today. And the third one is a process, which is social process change that I think the whole world can win from. It's sorting simply by wet and dry. And the problem immediately with all recycling is the contamination from the very point of deposit into a waste bag or system in your house or your office. And if it's dry, it's much easier to get rid of that material, not get rid of it, but to sort it for value without the contamination of the wet organics, which can be dealt with in a different way. And I think that in itself can make a huge difference everywhere.
Thank you. We have a question, please. Remember, name and... Yes.
My name is Julian. I work for an organisation called Reef Check. We are involved in marine conservation. We work on small islands. Plastic is a problem, and it's beach plastic, so it's dirty, trashy, horrible plastic that nobody really wants. We get about 20 cents on the kilo. I get 300 ringgit for a boat full of plastics, which costs me 900 ringgit to send off the island. Okay, the only way we're going to solve this is to make it economically viable. We need to monetize the plastic. Question is, what is the route for Malaysia to get to a deposit scheme for plastic so that we can stop this stuff ending up in the ocean in the first place? Thank you.
I'm actually going to rephrase that question for you, because plasticity is all about open ideas and thinking. So rather than a policy specific, I would actually like the panel to talk more about government policies. Which policy mechanisms do you see as working? I mean, container deposit schemes is one. What policy mechanisms would be worth considering to talk with government?
So I will jump in quickly. We are part of a group in the US that is pushing clean tax cuts. This is not discussed much around the world at all. Usually we're talking about taxes or bans or rewards on a type of material, but what is needed around the world is incentive to get the capacities up for recycling and waste collection infrastructure. And if the governments can take the lead in giving tax incentives and different barrier-free capital market green financing initiatives, this is not about green bonds, because most of this equipment is too small for a big bond issuer in a bank to care about a new grinding machine and a shredding machine. But if you are able to give tax incentives to the entrepreneurs and the corporates who are able to build these machines and get them into the system, then you can start the value chain. And I would put that challenge out to Malaysia to please be the first and beat the US to be the first to have a clean tax cut policy. Thank you.
Very popular option.
I think I might go next. So one policy opportunity is also looking at a collection scheme across all materials, not just focusing on one type of containers. Because what we have seen in several other countries, including in other developing countries like Mexico, is that collection needs to be often cross-subsidized across materials. So the real hard-to-recycle plastics do not have any value at all out there in the market. And often these are the ones that are found in open dump sites. They have the highest contamination rates into the environment. And these also need to be collected together with plastics. So I would look at a cross-sector way, across materials, to collect back the packaging instead of just one particular container.
Steve?
Maybe I say something. In most of the developed countries, we have a kind of collection system. The most popular one we call MRF, Material Recovering Facility. And with this example, like California, this company run MRF normally to get the contract, they have to submit a tender. And with the tender, they also have to collect everything. So often we have some material at negative value. And then the positive value will compensate the negative value. And then in the end, if it's not enough, then the local authority will subsidize. So in recycling, what we need is also financial incentive. And often we see lots of scrap. Why they are not recycled? It's not because they cannot recycle. It's just because the cost is more than even if they buy prime material. What we need to work out is environmental costs and the actual cost for dumping it. The cost of dumping material should subsidize whoever recycle or collect material. And the cost, and the environmental cost is something that is unmeasurable because you cannot measure the damage to the environment, how much it costs. Actually, this costs hundreds of years for the environment to recover. So this is the thing that policymakers should consider. Instead of spending money for landfill, why don't find a system to give to the recycler or to the system? And also, nowadays, not only the money, nowadays, scrap plastic eventually end up in microplastic. Microplastic now is endangering our health. It's not a matter of money. It's a matter of health and safety. Yeah.
Ben, did you want to make a comment or
I would just echo a good bit of what's been said, and I think it's a bit of an irony with some of our packaging, right? Because we can be some of the most visible or seen as the poster child often on these issues, but our packaging is some of the highest value material. So often it's helping subsidize some of these other lower value material.
And you've been very patient. This will be the last question.
My name is Nalini. I come from India. I work with waste pickers. We have about 10,000 waste pickers working with us. So my question to Mr. Wong and Ashwin. Traditionally, the whole informal sector has been working in recovery. And now with the emphasis on recycling, new urban millennials are getting into this field. And with lot of finance. And it may or may not work, but how do we make a level playing field for informal sector to access this finance? Because they don't speak English and they don't have fancy PowerPoints. They don't know how to deal with the investors, but they do the work. How do we make this level playing field for them?
Thanks, Nalini. So, if I'm not wrong, Nalini, there's about 30,000 waste pickers, informal waste pickers in the city of Bangalore. So that's a huge amount of population of waste pickers of the informal sector. And that's typical across many parts of Southeast Asia. So in a number of our recommendations and also in our data collection, we see that informal sector is, they love their jobs. It's not like they are, they don't have any other options to go to. They are often entrepreneurial and they are proud about their jobs. So they often need certain supporting mechanisms, which include creating simple things like identity cards, which allows them to go to work with respect and collect the materials. And they also need good policy frameworks, which allows them to be part of the informal sector or part of the recycling sector. So one challenge we see with, for instance, with container deposit schemes, while they are fantastic in developed countries in increasing collection rates, they have a tendency to bypass the informal sector because now instead of the informal sector collecting the waste, the plastics from your house, the consumer is depositing it directly and earning back that amount. So you're completely bypassing that informal sector. So it's also important to consider some of these factors while we bring in certain policies as well.
Hi.
Steve, did you want to? No? Okay. Oh, I had said it was the last one, but...
Okay, yeah, thank you for allowing me to ask questions. My name is Sisi Cham, the Vice President of MPMA, the Malaysian Plastic Manufacturers Association. I have a question for Mr. Ben Jordan. All right. I mean, I would like to say that the Coca-Cola company's commitment to collect back 100% is really a very good thing, to do. I think as a person who is involved in the recycling sector, I think that is something that we really want to learn from. My question is, I've seen from your slides that Coca-Cola in your sustainability strategy, your emphasis is on using recycled collection, recycling, and maybe even refilling or reuse of those bottles. But I do not see the use of biodegradable materials in your strategy, and I do not see the some governments are talking about going towards no bottles, no plastic bottles. What is your take on that? No bottles and biodegradable materials for bottles. Thank you.
Sure. No. So two pieces to that. So first of all, I would say, again, the strategy is all around driving the circular economy for our packaging, right? So it's putting more sustainable packaging out there and bringing back, whatever that we do put out there, and hopefully turning it into a new package, right? So a big push around recycled content material, 50% recycled content in every package by 2030. Also, we do have a push in there around renewable material. We do have plant bottle packaging in the marketplace today. We've put about 60 billion plant-based PET plastic bottles in the market over the last 6 or 8 years, I guess 10 years now. We've had plant bottle packaging in over 20 markets. That technology, it's a bio-based PET, so it's not biodegradable. It's from renewable material. The nature of the PET plastic molecule allows you to get about 30% of that PET plastic from plant-based sources. The other 70% is difficult, but we're working on that. Our choice has been to use renewable material in a package that mimics traditional PET so that we can continue to recycle it forever. We don't see biodegradable plastic solutions working for us, in the near term in rigid plastic bottles that we need for delivering our product. But we continue to look at that, for longer term, but not something that we see in the short term. So, we see plastic as part of our package portfolio to 2030, right? We do have a diverse package portfolio, and you'll see shifts, into other types of packaging potentially. There will be new things that come about, but we don't see that magic replacement for plastic, to 2030.
Thank you very much. I will have to draw it to a close. I am sorry. I know there are so many questions that we'd like to ask. Everyone will be around for the day, so please make contact, network, and ask those questions that you have burning on your mind.